I carried an injured alien woman off the battlefield. Now she follows me everywhere. The battlefield was never meant for humans. That was what every species in the coalition believed. Humans were new, fragile, short-lived, and emotionally unstable. They were assigned support roles, transport, repairs, medical recovery after the fighting was done. No one expected them to walk calmly through burning ground while artillery shook the sky. Yet there he was. Elias Verne moved carefully through the broken valley, his boots crunching on shattered metal and blackened stone. Smoke rolled low across the ground, and the air smelled of heat and dust. Above him, distant ships still traded fire in orbit, flashes of light flickering through the clouds. The main battle had passed hours ago, leaving behind silence that felt heavier than noise. Elias carried a medical pack on his back and a rescue scanner in his hand. His orders were simple: search for survivors, human or otherwise. If someone was alive, he was to bring them out. No exceptions. Most soldiers hated this assignment. The battlefield after combat was full of danger. Unstable ground, malfunctioning weapons, automated defenses still firing at anything that moved. Humans were not built for this kind of work, the aliens said. Elias ignored them. He had learned early that fear was loud, but duty was quiet. You listened to the quiet voice if you wanted to live with yourself afterward. His scanner pulsed softly, sending waves into the debris. Nothing. He took another step, then another, moving toward the remains of a collapsed alien artillery unit. It belonged to the Orcs Dominion, one of the most feared warrior species in the galaxy. Tall, powerful, disciplined. They never retreated. They never left their wounded behind, at least that was the belief. The scanner pulsed again. This time it beeped. Elias stopped. He adjusted the settings, narrowing the scan. The signal was faint but clear, a life sign, weak but present, buried under twisted metal and stone. "Found you," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. He moved closer, pushing aside loose debris. A piece of armor came into view, dark red and silver, cracked along the side. Orcs armor, heavy, expensive, not something left behind lightly. Elias worked slowly, using a small cutter to slice through bent plating. Sparks flew, lighting the smoke for brief moments. Finally, he saw her. She was lying on her side, half covered by rubble, tall even by Orc standards. Her skin was a pale blue-gray, marked with faint natural patterns that looked like flowing lines. One of her arms was twisted at an unnatural angle. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes opened. They were sharp, golden, and filled with pain and disbelief. She stared at him unmoving, as if trying to decide whether he was real. A human, here. Elias froze when their eyes met. He slowly raised his hands, showing he carried no weapon. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm here to help." Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She tried to push herself up, failed, and let out a low sound that might have been anger or frustration. Orcs warriors did not accept help, especially not from humans. Elias had been warned about this. Many alien soldiers would rather die than be touched by a human medic. Pride was heavier than armor. Still, he knelt beside her. "You're hurt," he said simply. "I can get you out." Her gaze hardened. She shook her head, slow but firm. Behind them, the ground trembled. Somewhere nearby, an unstable weapons platform collapsed with a deep metallic groan. Time was running out. Elias checked the scanner again. Her life signs were dropping. "If I leave you here," he said quietly, "you won't make it." Her eyes flicked away for a moment toward the wreckage, toward the sky. When she looked back at him, something had changed. Not trust, but acceptance. She nodded once. That was all the permission he needed. He moved carefully, stabilizing her injured arm with a field brace. She tensed at his touch but did not resist. Her armor was heavy, far heavier than anything humans normally carried. Elias swallowed and adjusted his stance. "This might hurt," he warned. She made a short sound that might have been a laugh or a challenge. With effort, Elias lifted her, pulling her free of the debris. Pain flashed across her face, but she did not cry out. Orcs warriors endured pain as a matter of honor. He shifted her weight onto his back, securing her with straps from his pack. His knees bent under the strain. She was easily twice his weight. For a brief moment, doubt crept in. Then he stood. Each step forward felt like a test. The ground was uneven, his muscles burning, his breath tight in his chest. Behind him, the alien woman's breathing brushed against his neck. She was conscious, watching everything. They passed other soldiers, alien and human alike, moving toward extraction points. When they saw Elias carrying a Orcs warrior on his back, they stopped. Some stared, some whispered. A few alien soldiers stepped aside instinctively, as if unsure how to react. A human carrying a Vierx was something no one had trained for. The Vierx woman lifted her head slightly, scanning the surroundings. Her hand moved weakly, resting against Elia's shoulder. It was not a grip for balance. It was a grip of acknowledgement. Elias felt it and kept walking. An automated turret ahead suddenly activated, its damaged sensors misidentifying targets. It rotated, weapon charging. Elias swore under his breath and veered left, moving faster despite the pain. The turret fired, shots slamming into the ground behind them. Dust and heat exploded into the air. The Vierx woman shifted, her good arm moving. She pointed sharply. Elias followed her direction without thinking, ducking behind a slab of fallen wall just as the turret malfunctioned and destroyed itself in a burst of sparks. For the first time, she spoke. "Why?" Her voice was rough but clear. Elias blinked. "Why what?" "Why carry me?" she asked. "Your kind was not ordered to save mine." He adjusted his grip. "Doesn't matter. It matters to us." He hesitated, then answered honestly. "Someone was alive. I don't leave people behind." She was silent after that. The extraction zone came into view, a wide clearing marked by blue lights. Medical teams rushed forward when they saw him approaching. Stretchers were brought out. Medics reached for the Vierx woman. Her hand tightened on Elia's shoulder. A low, dangerous sound came from her throat. The medics froze. "It's okay," Elias said quickly. "She's injured. She needs help." Her grip loosened slowly, reluctantly. As they moved her onto the stretcher, her eyes never left his face. Even as pain dragged her toward unconsciousness, she watched him. The transport doors closed. Engines roared. The battlefield fell away beneath them. Elias sat on the floor of the medical bay, exhausted, his arms trembling. A human medic handed him water. He drank without tasting it. Across the bay, the Vierx woman lay still, machines monitoring her condition. Alien doctors worked carefully, their movements precise. One of them glanced at Elias, then looked away, unsettled. No one spoke about what had happened. But everyone had seen it. Somewhere between fire and ruin, a line had been crossed, not by force, not by command, by choice. And the galaxy would never quite see humans the same way again. The medical station drifted in quiet orbit above the ruined world, far from the noise of battle. Inside, lights glowed soft and steady, and the air smelled clean, almost unreal after the smoke and fire below. Elias Verne sat alone on a metal bench outside the recovery wing, his hands resting on his knees. They still shook, though the danger was long past. He told himself it was only exhaustion. Hours had passed since the evacuation. Reports were filed. Equipment returned. Orders updated. Life moved on, as it always did. Yet Elias had not moved from his spot. Something held him there, a feeling he could not explain. Across the wide corridor, the door to the alien recovery room slid open with a soft sound. A Vierx medical officer stepped out, tall and narrow, his uniform marked with silver symbols of rank. He studied Elias for a long moment, his golden eyes unreadable. "She lives," the officer said at last. Elias released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "That's good." The officer tilted his head slightly. "You carried her through an active battlefield." "Yes." "Alone." "Yes." The Vierx officer paused, then spoke more quietly. "You should not have done that," Elias frowned. "She would have died." "That is not what I mean." The officer's gaze sharpened. "You interfered with something older than your species." Before Elias could ask what he meant, the officer turned and walked away. Elias sat there, confused and uneasy. Minutes later, the door opened again. This time, she walked out. The alien woman moved slowly, but without assistance. Her injured arm was secured in a sleek brace that glowed faintly with medical energy. Fresh markings had been drawn along her armor and skin, symbols Elias did not recognize. Her posture was straight, her expression calm, but her eyes immediately found him. She walked toward him. Every conversation in the corridor faded. Humans and aliens alike stopped what they were doing, watching in silence as a Vierx warrior crossed the floor with deliberate steps. Elias stood unsure whether he should salute, bow, or say something. She stopped a few steps away. "You remained," she said. Yes," Elias replied. "I wanted to make sure you were okay." Her gaze searched his face, intense but not hostile. "You are Elias Verne," he blinked. "How do you?" I asked. She said simply. "They told me." "Oh." Silence stretched between them. Finally, she inclined her head. It was a small movement, but Elias sensed its importance. My name is Seelan of the 3rd Vierk's Vanguard, she said. I live because you chose otherwise. Elias shifted awkwardly. Anyone would have done the same. Her eyes narrowed. That is not true. She stepped closer. Elias became very aware of how tall she was, how solid her presence felt, yet there was no threat in her stance. I owe you my life, she said. This debt does not fade with time. Elias scratched the back of his neck. You don't owe me anything, I was just doing my job. Her expression softened just slightly. That belief is why your kind is dangerous. Before he could respond, an announcement echoed through the station, calling personnel back to duty. Elias hesitated. I should go, he said. I've got another shift. Seelan nodded. I will go with you, he stared. You don't need to. I do, she replied calmly. They walked through the station together. Wherever Elias went, she followed at a respectful distance. When he stopped to speak with a human officer, she waited. When he collected new equipment, she stood nearby, silent and watchful. At first, Elias assumed she would leave eventually. She didn't. Human soldiers whispered. Alien crews stared openly. Some stepped aside when she passed, others lowered their eyes. No one challenged her presence. During a brief rest period, Elias finally turned to her. Seelan, you don't have to follow me everywhere, she considered his words. You misunderstand. I do. You did not rescue a Vierk soldier, she said. You claimed a life debt. Elias felt a chill. I didn't claim anything. That is irrelevant, she replied. Intent does not change outcome, she explained as they walked. Among the Vierks, life was earned through strength, honor, and survival. To be saved by an enemy, by someone weaker, someone with no obligation, was unheard of. Such an act broke all known expectations. When a life is taken unjustly, it creates hatred, Seelan said. When a life is saved without reason, it creates loyalty. Elias stopped walking. You're saying you're loyal to me? Yes. That's not, he struggled for words. That's not how humans work. Seelan studied him. I know. That night, Elias tried to sleep in his small quarters. He failed. Every time he closed his eyes, he was aware of her presence just outside his door. She stood there unmoving, as if guarding him from threats that did not exist. Eventually, he opened the door. You don't have to stand there, he said gently. I'm safe. I know, she replied. Then why? Because safety can change, he sighed. At least sit down. She did. Days passed. Repairs continued. Troops rotated. The war shifted to other systems. Through it all, Seelan remained close to Elias. She attended briefings he attended. She stood beside him during meals, though she barely ate. She watched everything. Elias learned small things about her. She liked silence. She listened more than she spoke. She asked questions about human customs, not out of curiosity, but to understand how he thought. Other aliens noticed. A senior coalition officer eventually summoned Elias. You've created a problem, the officer said, folding his arms. I rescued a wounded soldier, Elias replied. That's all. The officer shook his head. Vierk's warriors don't attach themselves to individuals, they attach to causes, to commands. Well, she's not hurting anyone. Not yet, the officer said quietly. Do you know who she is? Elias hesitated. A soldier. She's more than that, the officer said. Her family commands fleets. Elias felt his stomach drop. The officer leaned closer. If she stays with you, others will notice. Alliances will shift. People will assume things. Elias looked through the glass wall at Seelan, who stood waiting calmly outside. I didn't ask for this. No, the officer agreed. That may be the problem. Later that day, a group of alien soldiers confronted Seelan in a training hall. Elias watched from a distance, heart pounding. You disgrace our banners, one of them said. Seelan stood firm. I honor them. You follow a human. I follow a debt. Debts can be repaid. Not this one. Elias expected anger, violence. Instead, the soldiers stepped back unsettled. They did not challenge her further. That night, Seelan spoke to Elias again. Your kind does not understand what it means to save an enemy, she said. Elias shrugged. We don't really think in those terms. That is why the galaxy will struggle with you, she replied. You do not act as expected. Elias looked at her, really looked at her, not as a warrior, not as an alien, but as someone who had nearly died alone. I didn't save you because you were Vierks, he said. I saved you because you were there, Seelan nodded slowly. Then I will remain because you are here. And somewhere deep within the vast, watching galaxy, a quiet realization began to spread. Humans did not conquer with fleets. They conquered by refusing to walk away. The attack came without warning. The station alarms screamed through the corridors, sharp and urgent, cutting through conversations and rest cycles alike. Red lights replaced the soft white glow, and automated doors sealed off sections of the station in rapid sequence. Elias was in the equipment bay, checking medical supplies, when the first impact shook the floor beneath his feet. Tools rattled. A container fell and cracked open, spilling sterile packs across the ground. "What now?" he muttered. Before he could move, Seelan was already beside him. "Not an accident," she said. Her eyes were focused, alert. "This was planned." Another impact hit, closer this time. The station groaned as if something massive had struck its outer shell. Elias activated his comm. "This is Vern, what's happening?" Static, then a strained voice. "Unknown hostile boarding craft, multiple breaches, security teams responding. Boarding." Elias felt a cold knot form in his stomach. This was supposed to be a safe zone. Neutral, medical stations were rarely targeted. Seelan's jaw tightened. "They know humans are here." "That doesn't make sense," Elias said. "We're not." "They are afraid," she interrupted. "Fear makes sense to those who feel it." The lights flickered. From the far end of the corridor came the sound of metal tearing and heavy footsteps striking the floor in perfect rhythm. Not panicked, controlled. Seelan stepped slightly in front of Elias without thinking. He noticed. "Seelan," he said, "you're injured." "I am functional," she replied. Figures appeared through the smoke, tall, armored, unfamiliar, not coalition. Their weapons were raised, scanning. The first human security officer to round the corner froze when he saw them. The intruders moved fast, disabling systems, cutting through resistance with precise efficiency. They were not here to destroy the station. They were here to take something. Their leader turned his helmeted head and locked eyes with Seelan. "There," he said through a translator. "The bonded one?" Elias' heart dropped. Before anyone could react, the intruders advanced. Seelan moved. Despite her injury, she was fast. She placed herself directly between Elias and the attackers, her stance balanced, controlled. She did not charge, she waited. "Stand down," she said, her voice calm but carrying authority. "This human is under my protection." The intruder leader laughed, a harsh sound. "That is exactly why we are here." Security fire erupted from behind, forcing the attackers to take cover. Chaos filled the corridor. Elias ducked instinctively, pulling wounded crew members aside, doing what he always did, helping whoever was closest. Through it all, Seelan never left his side. When a blast damaged a nearby support beam, debris rained down. Elias shoved a human technician out of the way, taking the impact on his shoulder. Pain flared, sharp and bright. He barely had time to react before Seelan caught him, steadying him with her uninjured arm. "You are hurt," she said. "I'm fine," he lied, her eyes darkened. "You do not lie well?" More intruders pushed forward. One broke through the defensive line and raised his weapon toward Elias. Seelan stepped into the line of fire. She did not hesitate. Her movements were clean, practiced, almost elegant. She disarmed the attacker and struck him down with controlled force, not rage, not cruelty, just necessity. The corridor fell quiet for a moment. Every eye, human and alien, was on her. She stood over the fallen intruder, then looked back at Elias to make sure he was still standing. Only then did she relax. Reinforcements arrived minutes later. The attackers withdrew, their mission incomplete. Damaged crews moved in. Medics rushed the injured away. Elias was taken to the infirmary despite his protests. As a human medic treated his shoulder, Elias looked across the room. Seelan stood near the wall, silent as ever, but something about her had changed. Other Vierks warriors were there now. They watched her with expressions Elias had never seen on their faces before. Respect, concern, and something close to unease. One of them approached her. "You broke formation, you endangered yourself." "I acted correctly," Seelan replied. "You defended a human." "I defended what was owed." The warrior's gaze shifted to Elias, then back to her. "This debt of yours is becoming visible." "That was inevitable." Word spread quickly. Within hours, reports circulated across coalition channels. An elite Vierks warrior had publicly placed herself between a human and hostile forces. Not once, but repeatedly. Analysts argued, commanders debated, cultural experts panicked. The conclusion was the same everywhere. This was not normal. Elias felt the consequences before he fully understood them. Humans began being reassigned from frontline support roles to liaison duties. Aliens requested human presence during negotiations. Some refused to operate without them nearby, and always Seelan was with him. One evening, Elias confronted her in the observation ring where stars drifted slowly past the wide glass panels. "They came because of me," he said quietly. "They came because of what you represent," she corrected. "I don't represent anything," Elias said. "I'm just a medic." Seelan turned to face him. "You saved an enemy when no reward existed. You accepted risk without command. You acted from choice." She gestured toward the stars. "That is rare," Elias exhaled. "People could get hurt because of this." "Yes," she said, "they already have." He looked at her. "Then why stay?" "Because leaving would mean your choice had no weight," she said. "And it does." The next attack was larger. A coalition outpost on a nearby moon was hit. Human personnel were trapped alongside multiple alien units. Evacuation was impossible under heavy fire. Command hesitated. Then a request came through. Human presence requested for morale stabilization. Elias was ordered to deploy. As the transport prepared to launch, Seelan stood with him at the ramp. "This mission is dangerous," she said. "They all are," Elias replied. "I will accompany you." "That's not," she placed a hand on his arm. "This time you are the one walking into fire." The outpost was in worse shape than expected. Structures burned, power flickered. Defenders were exhausted, fear clear on every face. When Elias and Seelan arrived, something strange happened. The fighting slowed, not stopped. Slowed. Aliens fought harder, steadier. Humans moved with focus, calm spreading through the chaos. Even enemies hesitated when they saw a human medic pulling wounded from the line without regard for species. Elias worked nonstop. His hands moved on instinct. Bandage, stabilize, move on. At one point, he collapsed from exhaustion. Seelan lifted him without effort, carrying him to cover the same way he had carried her. As she set him down, their eyes met. "Do you understand now?" she asked. Elias managed a tired smile. "I think I'm starting to." The outpost held, not because of superior weapons. Not because of numbers, but because someone chose to stay when leaving would have been easier. Later, as reports spread and stories were retold, the galaxy began to whisper a dangerous idea. Humans were not weak, they were unpredictable. And worse for those who feared them, they inspired loyalty without demanding it. Standing beside Seelan as ships departed the battered moon, Elias looked out at the stars. He hadn't meant to change anything, but the galaxy didn't care about intention. Only impact. The galaxy reacted slowly at first, then all at once. After the outpost held, reports flooded every coalition network, not official ones filled with careful language and numbers, but personal accounts. A human medic pulling wounded aliens from fire. A Vierx warrior standing beside him, refusing to retreat. Fear turning into focus simply because a human was present. Command centers argued. Cultural councils panicked. Older species, those that had ruled through strength and tradition for centuries, felt something unfamiliar pressing at the edges of their certainty. Unease. Elias felt it in smaller ways. Conversations stopped when he entered a room. Officers watched him more closely. Requests for his presence came with strange wording, careful and indirect, as if no one wanted to say the truth out loud. Humans were changing things, not with weapons, not with threats, by being exactly what they were. Seelan noticed the shift before he did. "They are trying to isolate you," she said one evening as they walked the long curve of the station's habitat ring. Elias frowned. "Who is?" "Everyone," she replied. "They speak of balance, of risk, of control." He sighed. "I never wanted this." "I know," she said. "That is why it frightens them." The order came the next day. Elias was summoned to a coalition council chamber, a wide circular room designed to make no one feel taller or smaller than anyone else. Representatives from a dozen species were present, their forms varied, their expressions tense. Seelan was stopped at the door. "This meeting is for humans only," a security officer said. Seelan did not move. "I go where he goes." Elias turned back. "It's okay, I'll be fine." Her eyes searched his face, reading more than his words. After a moment, she stepped back. "I will be here," she said. Inside, the air felt heavy. A senior coalition representative spoke first. "Elias Verne, thank you for attending." Elias nodded. "You called me." "Yes," the representative said. "We need to discuss the situation surrounding your influence." Elias blinked. "My what?" "You have become a focal point," another voice added. "Where you are present, behavior changes, alliances shift, combat outcomes alter." "I'm just doing my job," Elias said. "That is the problem," a third representative said quietly. They explained their concern in careful words. Humans, they said, acted outside expected models. Their empathy under pressure created bonds that bypassed hierarchy, culture, even loyalty to species. This destabilized established power structures. You inspire allegiance without authority, one said. That is dangerous. Elias felt his chest tighten. So what are you saying? We are recommending that humans be removed from frontline operations, the first representative said. Reassigned to controlled environments, limited interaction. Elias stared. You want to sideline my entire species because we help people. We want to preserve order, the representative replied. Elias stood. With respect, he said, his voice steady but firm, order that depends on leaving people behind isn't worth preserving. The room fell silent. You may leave, the representative said at last. Outside, Seelan straightened when she saw him. They will try again, she said after one look at his face. Yeah, Elias replied, I think they will. The pressure increased. Humans found their movements restricted, joint missions canceled or reassigned. Aliens who requested human support were quietly denied. Fear spread, not among humans, but among those who ruled. Then came the breaking point. A massive evacuation was announced in a contested system near the galactic core. Millions of civilians from multiple species were trapped as two rival fleets closed in. The coalition debated intervention for days. Too risky, too many variables. Finally, a decision was made. No direct military engagement. Elias heard the news in the medical bay. He watched the feed silently as projections showed cities burning, evacuation ships struggling to launch. Seelan stood beside him, utterly still. They will die, she said. Yes, Elias replied. They fear what might change more than what will be lost. Elias turned off the feed. An hour later, he requested access to a transport. Permission denied. He requested again, denied again. Seelan watched him carefully. You are going anyway. Yes, they will stop you. Then they'll have to, Elias said. He sent a message across human channels. Simple, clear. Anyone who could help come, he did not know who would answer. When Elias reached the hangar, he found it already crowded. Human medics, engineers, pilots, a few soldiers, no speeches, no shouting, just quiet preparation. Aliens watched from the edges, confused and unsettled. Security moved in to block the launch. Seelan stepped forward. I will clear the path, she said. Elias grabbed her arm. No fighting. She met his gaze. Then they must choose. She turned to the security teams, her voice carrying across the hangar. This human goes to save lives, she said. If you stop him, you declare that fear outweighs duty. The security commander hesitated. Behind him, something unexpected happened. An alien stepped forward. Then another, a third, not soldiers, civilians, technicians, even a few warriors. We will go too, one said. The hangar filled with movement. Orders were shouted, then ignored. Transports powered up. The coalition command issued a final warning. No one listened. The evacuation zone was chaos when they arrived. Ships burned in orbit. Ground defenses fired wildly. Panic ruled the streets. Humans spread out immediately, doing what they always did, organizing routes, treating the wounded, calming the terrified. Seelan fought beside them, her presence a silent promise that they would not be abandoned. Something remarkable happened. Alien units that had been moments from retreating held their ground. Civilian crowds moved with purpose instead of panic. Even rival species cooperated, if only for a few hours. Elias moved through it all, exhausted but focused. At one point, he stood on the ramp of a transport watching the last group board. A coalition commander appeared beside him, face pale. You've changed everything, the commander said. Elias didn't look at him. People are alive. Yes, the commander said softly, and now we have to live with that. The evacuation succeeded, not perfectly, not without loss, but millions lived who would not have. When the transports returned, the response was immediate. Emergency councils, demands, accusations, but there were also messages, gratitude, respect, requests, too many to ignore. Seelan stood with Elias as they watched the station lights come back into view. They can no longer pretend, she said. Pretend what? Elias asked. That kindness is weak, she replied. Elias leaned against the wall, suddenly very tired. I never wanted to lead anything. Seelan placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and grounding. You are not leading, she said. You are walking forward, others are choosing to follow. Below them, ships of many species docked side by side. The galaxy had tried to stop the change. Now it would have to face it, and it was afraid not because humans were strong. but because they were willing to carry others, even when the cost was high. The galaxy did not calm down after the evacuation. It held its breath. Every major network replayed the same images again and again. Humans guiding civilians onto ships. Aliens of rival species working side by side without orders. A Vierx warrior standing at the edge of a transport ramp, unmoving, guarding a human medic as if the universe itself might try to take him. Debates filled council halls. Fear hid behind polite language. Power shifted quietly like ground moving before an earthquake. Elias Verne felt none of it at first. He slept for almost a full day after returning. When he woke, his body ached in ways no medical scanner could fully explain. His hands were bruised. His voice was hoarse. His mind felt heavy. Seelan sat beside his bed as she had so many times before. "You are alive," she said. "Last I checked," Elias replied weakly. Her eyes softened. "That is enough." When he finally left the medical wing, the station felt different. People did not just look at him anymore. They nodded, stepped aside. Some placed a hand over their chest in gestures of respect he did not understand. It made him uncomfortable. "I don't like this," he told Seelan quietly as they walked. "They are not honoring you," she replied. "They are honoring what you showed them." "That's worse," Elias muttered. The final confrontation came sooner than expected. A full coalition assembly was called, not an emergency session, not a debate, a decision. Elias was summoned again. This time, Seelan was not stopped. No one tried. The chamber was filled beyond capacity. Species that rarely attended now filled the upper tiers. Observers crowded every available space. Silence fell as Elias entered. A central figure rose, old, measured, powerful. "The galaxy stands at a turning point," the figure said, "and humans stand at its center." Elias stiffened. "For centuries," the figure continued, "order was maintained through strength, fear, and strict control. It worked, until it didn't." Images appeared above the chamber. Burning worlds, abandoned colonies, refugees drifting through space. "Then humans arrived," the figure said, "and they refused to behave correctly." A ripple of reaction spread through the chamber. "They rescued enemies. They stayed when retreat was logical. They broke every predictive model we had." The figure turned its gaze directly on Elias. "You have shown us a truth we did not wish to see." The chamber was silent. "That survival alone is not enough." Elias swallowed. "What are you asking?" he said. The figure paused. "We are asking humanity to choose." "To choose what?" "To become what the galaxy needs," the figure said. "Not rulers, not conquerors, but anchors." Murmurs spread. "Your presence stabilizes conflict," the figure continued. "Your compassion disrupts cycles of revenge. Your refusal to abandon others inspires loyalty no decree can force." Elias shook his head slowly. "You're asking too much." "No," Seelan said, stepping forward. Every eye turned to her. "They are asking for what already exists," she said. "Humans will do this whether sanctioned or not. That is their nature." The figure inclined its head. "Exactly." Elias looked around the chamber. "What happens if we say no?" The answer came from many voices. "Then we will still follow." The words struck harder than any threat. Elias closed his eyes. He thought of the battlefield, of lifting Seelan from the rubble, of every moment after where walking away would have been easier. When he opened his eyes, he spoke clearly. "Humans won't be your weapon," he said. "We won't enforce peace. We won't control anyone." The chamber held its breath. "But we will keep doing what we've always done," Elias continued. "Helping, staying, carrying people when they can't walk anymore." A pause. "If that changes the galaxy," he said, "that's on all of us." Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. The figure bowed, not deeply, not submissively, but enough. The decision spread quickly after that. Human presence was not restricted, it was requested, not demanded, not forced. Humans became mediators, rescuers, stabilizers. Wherever conflict threatened to spiral, humans were sent, not as commanders but as reminders of cost, of consequence, of choice. Elias did not take a position of power. He refused every offer. Instead, he returned to what he knew, field work. Seelan remained with him. But she was no longer the only one. Others followed, not guards, not soldiers, allies. On a distant station months later, Elias walked through a crowded concourse. Voices of dozens of species blended into a low hum. Ships docked and departed. Life moved forward. Seelan walked beside him, no longer a shadow, but a presence equal to his own. "You could stop now," she said. Elias smiled faintly. "Probably. You won't." "No," he agreed. "I won't." They passed a group of young aliens watching them with wide eyes. "Is it true," one whispered, "that humans will carry anyone?" Elias heard it. He stopped and turned. "We try," he said simply. The alien nodded as if that answered everything. As they continued walking, Seelan spoke quietly. "My people once believed strength was proven by who you could defeat. And now?" Elias asked. "Now," she said, "we know it is proven by who you refuse to abandon." Elias looked out through the station windows at the stars beyond, endless, unchanged. Yet everything felt different. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. It had not ruled it. It had not saved it all. But it had done something far more dangerous. It had shown the universe another way to survive. And once seen, that truth could never be unseen. Elias adjusted the strap of his medical pack and stepped forward. Seelan followed. So did the galaxy.